Welcome to Custom Home Builder Solutions videos for the CHS on the web. Please make this full screen for best viewing. This is another video in the series of videos about how to post payroll in CHS and also how to allocate to job costs if you are posting employees' wages to job costs. This particular video will be about setting up an employee that you will be allocating the wages to job costs. So from this screen, I'm going to go to Employee Setup button on the right, and I'm going to be clicking this first button for Employees List and Setup. What will open is a list of your employees, which we just have 3, 2 active and 1 inactive. And to edit these employees, you can click the pencil edit icon and it will open their screen, which will be the same screen that you'll see after we set up a new employee here. But I'd like to set up an employee from scratch. You can do various types of searching before I set that up. You can see that if I put K here, I'll just see the ones starting with K, or F, the ones starting with F, the employee IDs, or show all. Or I can just say that I'd like to see the active ones by clicking that button. Or I can do a little further searching. I could select this one and this one, use the control key and just select these two, or just these two to show. I could do a range of hire dates, a range of term dates if I liked, but I'm going to go ahead and just search these two. But notice that my status up here is active because that's what I put in. So now I'm going to use a comma to say I want both active and inactive, and I'm going to do a search for just those two that I highlighted, and then I could do show all to show them all again. That's just a quick overview. You can get a quick report of these employees and their contact info if you like, the employees that you have searched for. If for some reason you just want to see whose birthday is in the month of June, you could select the month of June and only see those, or show all. You can also print labels for whoever you've searched for, just some name labels if you're creating some file folders for them, or some mailing labels, and it tells you which Avery mailing labels. Or you can print a full sheet of labels just for one particular employee. But this video, we need to go ahead and get our new employee set up, and so never mind. I'm going to this is my demo stuff, and I don't actually allow to set up a new employee. But what happens is a little window will open. It'll ask you for the employee ID, which should be in all caps and should be representative of their name, like that, and it will ask for their name, and then you click a continue button and a screen opens just like this one that's going to be opened with the pencil icon. And so we'll just go over it like that, as if Francis Jones is a new employee. First of all, they'll automatically be in an active status, and here's their name you can type in. You type in their street address. Actually, the city and state will drop in based on what you have set up in your company master for your company's address. And you should put an email address in because it may be used in different parts of the program. So we'll just put francis@somewhere.com here. You can put various phone numbers in. This would be the home, the fax, mobile 1 and 2, work 1 and 2, and their extensions. Put the date hired. If you want, you could put dates of last raise, date terminated, and here's where you would do the birth date. Now all of these others, you type 6 digits for the date in here, but the birth date, just because it can go back quite a ways, you should put 4 digits for the birth year so that it's real clear which year they were born in. Now the pay rate that you should put in, even if it's a salaried person, you should figure out what their wage per hour is, so that you can put in hours so that the program can track hours for you for different employees if you like. So we're saying enter a pay rate per hour. Now these fields that are the entry default fields that will drop in when you're creating a journal entry like we saw in the first video, these are the drop-in numbers that you can set up that are attached to this particular employee. In this case, he is a superintendent, a construction superintendent, so we want his actual wages to go to salaries superintendents, just his actual wages, and that will be on our income statement. Then we want the employer, the employer has to match Social Security and Medicare, and so the employer has some payroll tax expenses, and we want those expenses to go, since this is a construction person, to the payroll taxes construction wages, the actual expenses. Now, since we are going to post this employee's wages, some of them to job costs, we also need what is called a cost code, which is used on the actual job cost reports for all kinds of things like, framing, ceramic tile, plumbing. That's your actual cost codes. So we'd like to give a default cost code to this employee, and we have a cost code set up for superintendent salaries and wages that will show up on our actual job cost report. This next field has to do with how much, if you're going to allocate this person's wages to job costs, excuse me, at a higher rate that should cover your burden of your payroll tax expenses. So you might think I have 7.65% plus 1.45%, for Medicare, and 7.65 is for both Social Security and Medicare. Then you might have some unemployment rate, and you might have some insurance expense, etc. You need to figure out how much you should write this up to charge to a job. 15% is probably kind of low, but I'm just using that as an example right now. And this will be the amount that is used to take the wage plus a percent of the wage and mark that up for your job cost entry that you saw in the first video. Then if you're going to be doing job costing, it wants to know, it's going to post the regular wages to this one, and then it's going to post, if you do any job costing, it wants to know what GL number you'd like to drop in for where you're posting your job costs. This particular builder is posting job costs to a work in progress account called direct construction costs. Some of you may not use work in progress, and you may post your job costs straight to some cost of sales account, so you probably want to use that here. Now, in the previous video we talked about setting up a contra account on your chart of accounts, so that when you post this marked up amount to job costs, some GL account for job costs, you need to have the other side of the entry posted to a credit, basically posted to what I call a contra account, to track how much you've been applying to job costs, so that your journal entry will be in balance. Basically, you need to have a credit GL number, and so you can set the default one here for this employee, so all of these will drop in while you're doing your journal entry. You can also select which department this employee's wages should be posted to. Various builders set up some different departments. Maybe they hire an employee that just does stuff for property management and not custom homes. So you can set up, and that's in other tutorials about setting up departments in the accounting tutorials. But you can produce income statements, etc. by department, so that's why we asked for a default department for this particular employee. Now when you're making your journal entry, and if you select a job, it's going to look for the department that goes with that job, because you can attach departments to jobs too, which may overwrite what you set up here for the employee. Now this field, this WC stands for Workman's Comp Type. It's like a cost type, but I'm going to click this pencil button so that you can see how you set up these cost types to also be useful for workers' comp reports. The cost types are also used in other areas of the program with your job costing that may have nothing to do with workers' comp, for just labor's material, etc. But we set up a cost type called superintendent, and you can put in the rate if you edit this or add a new one. You can put in the rate per the gross amount of gross wages, depending on what your state or your laws are for what you have to pay for workers' comp for wages. But here's where you put the rate in this case, $1.45 per every $100 paid, and in some later tutorials we will look at the reports for workers' comp. But so you need to select which one. I'm going to go ahead and X out of this because I'm not going to edit it. But it's real easy, and you just, if you need to add some new ones, you click add new cost type, you type in the type, and if you want to put a rate and per amount of gross wages, you can, and then you use the save icon. But we selected superintendent as his workers' comp type. Now over here you can put, in the old CHS, before it was on the web, you could put some entry reminders that would show up when you were posting the actual payroll to remind yourself to do things. In this case, this is remember to pay Francis for mileage. And you have some instructions here to put these in activities and notes, because those activities and notes are what will show up when you select that employee to post a journal entry. So let's add a new activity, and let's select the contact Francis Jones. And then pay mileage is our reminder. And for mileage on each paycheck. Then we're going to add a new record in. So I made some error. And if you click on these, you can see that I'm not allowed to put an exclamation point. And if you click here, I'm not allowed to put a $sign. This has some to do with web and posting to web and protecting against bad injections. So an additional screen opened up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an alert on this so it will help me notice this. And if I wanted to write some additional notes about this activity or upload some attachment, I could, but that's all I want right now. That's good enough. So I'm going to close this, and I'll refresh this, and you can see that it's now in the list of activities and notes for this employee. The other thing is, mentioning uploads, is that you will see that there's an employee documents button. If you would like to upload their W-9 or their W-4, or some contract you have with them, and here's where you would probably upload the W-4. It's telling me not to type in this field. But basically you click a button, go to browse your computer, and upload these things. Since we are not actually doing the calculation of payroll taxes, etc. in CHS for you, we don't have fields that other people could end up searching that shows Social Security and what their dependents are and all kinds of fields that might be needed for different states. So it could be a good idea for you to go ahead and upload some documents like their W-4 that shows the information that you need for them, their Social Security, etc., and then you would have those on file. And you could always click this, and then once you've uploaded a document, you'll see a little magnifying glass here to be able to open that document anytime you like. So that's basically how you set up an employee that will be job costed. And it tells me that first of all I need to save my changes that I made, like the email address, before I can close it. You'll see over here that suddenly this was updated, because every time you click on an employee you can see their contact information and even go spy on where they live with the Google map. So now you see from our first video how those GL numbers were dropping in, and the default counts were dropping in, and the default pay per hour, etc. were dropping in for this Francis Jones. Our very next tutorial, well, we'll just take a quick look at So Easy. Let's look at April Smith. This person is an office person, and so you will not be job costing, but I still would put a rate per hour in. If they're paid $400, you can figure out how many hours there are in a year. And here's just a little tip. It's just 40 hours a week times 52 weeks, so that's 2080 hours. So take that If they're paid $400 a week, and then divide that by the, what was it, 4080? I'm so silly. 52 weeks times 40 is 2080. Anyway, and you divide it and you get your rate per hour. So we'll decide, but we'll just decide the rate per hour for this person is $25 right now. Anyway, all you do is put in wage GL for an admin person, salaries, office, and clerical, and the account that will have the Social Security and Medicare, that's the employer tax expense, and select which type of workman's comp type they are and what department they belong to, and then fill in this various other information that you might want to fill in. I didn't mention that you can just type all kinds of notes over here just because, and you'll see there's a little icon here to make that wider if you need to type more. So I'll submit this because apparently this is telling me that I need to either leave this empty or give them a valid email. So now I'll submit it. And that's basically how you set up employees. Thank you for watching. We will continue on for setting up payroll categories in the next video.